So here we are in FL Studio as our digital audio workstation, in short DAW. On the first one you will see the channel rack. This is the place where we'll be programming our drums, putting down ideas and writing our MIDI notes and harmonies. Next thing we have here is the playlist view. Here we'll be doing the arrangements of our tracks. Next thing on our left is the browser. From here we'll be taking samples and putting into channel rack or directly into playlist view. On the top, we have a lot of options that can seem a little overwhelming at first, but it's super simple and I will take you through it all in just a second. On the very top left, we have the menu panel. File will be opening our projects, starting new ones, saving, exporting, etc. Then you have a couple of more panels that you won't find yourself using a lot, until the options, in which we'll be going in just a second. Then we have tools, which will be very useful at the production stage, and then help. So to help you go through all of the options here under the menu panel, you have the hint bar, which will show you what specific knobs or buttons do. So for example, if we go here, we can see that this is a master volume. Then we have a master pitch, which I would suggest you not use anytime. Then we have our play stop bar, on which we can choose if we want to play on our playlist as a song or at our pattern here on the channel rack. Then we have a record button, which we can record our voice or MIDI information with our keyboards. Here we can change the BPM of our track, beats per minute to be precise. Here we have our metronome, which will plug every beat to keep us in time when playing on MIDI keyboards. There we have a couple of more options which won't be crucial in the beginning, but for example here you can set the typing keyboard to piano keyboard. Here's the song position. For example, if you play it on the pattern, you can see that it comes to the end of our pattern, but we have it also here. I do not find it useful, so we can get rid of it later. And here comes the most important part. Starting with the magnet icon, which is about snapping our patterns and samples into the grid of our playlist view. For example, let me left click on the playlist view, and from default we'll have the pattern 1 selected. We don't have anything here, so you will not see anything. And if we have a line, you will see that it snaps to the grid. And if we set to none, for example, it won't. And this is really important to have it on the cell or line to have everything in line. Let's delete it with a right click. Next we have our pattern selector, which we'll be using to choose our pattern that we've made. For example, if we made a pattern with drums, we'll have a pattern called drums. If we have a piano harmonies, we'll have a new pattern for that. Next 4 patterns here you'll be using the most. Why is that? Because here we have our playlist view. Then we have our piano roll, if we click on it, which will be putting melodies and harmonies here. Let's close it. Then we have our channel rack, which we saw already. And then one of the most important, mixer. Here we have 125 tracks. We won't use all of them, of course. But overall, mixer channel will allow us to send our instrument, which we'll have here, to, for example, this track, and here we'll be able to manipulate the sound using the virtual effects, like echo for example. But that's something we'll get to it later. So the next one I don't find myself using a lot. Maybe I use sometimes the topper, which allows us to listen to some song on YouTube for example, and tap the tempo of it. We can see that this was 98. Very useful feature of FL Studio is customizing the buttons here. You can do it already to not get overwhelmed with the amount of the knobs here. Personally, I've made my preset called FL Standard, which looks like this. It's pretty clean and has only the features I use all the time. For example, choose from factory presets, like single line, which doesn't look pretty appealing for me, or just make it default and click edit. Here you can just grab this and get rid of the ones you don't want. For example, the pitch knob is not necessary at all. then the position panel is not necessary as well. The hint bar can be closer and stuff like this. But you can find my preset in the downloads of the course.